Anderson Cooper, AC360, CNN weeknights 10 Eastern.
Word today that Elizabeth Edwards, wife of former presidential candidate John Edwards, may be in the final stages of her fight against breast cancer. She and John Edwards are separated, though still married. Her family saying her doctors have advised her that further treatment would be, in their words, unproductive. She's been dealing, of course, with the disease since 2004. 3 years later, she and her husband revealed the cancer had spread. In July of this year, Elizabeth Edwards sat down with Larry King. He asked her what would happen if she didn't get the chance to finish raising her kids.
I'd be sad for me and sad for them. I'd like for them to see me seeing them off into their new life.
Such a sad prospect. Tonight, a source close to the family says her prognosis was described in terms of weeks. That same source telling us she's not in pain and, quote, has prepared for this. Her family's with her, including, as we said, her estranged husband, John. With us now, 360 MD Sanjay Gupta, and also Jessica Yellen, who's been covering this story extensively over the years. Sanjay, what happens at this stage of the disease? I mean, would doctors say it's no longer productive? What does that mean?
Well, when they say that the treatment's no longer productive, I mean, it's a risk-benefit analysis. Like most things in medicine, they're trying to figure out, is there some benefit to still giving the medicines to try and treat this cancer? And, there's no absolute right answer to this. Every breast cancer, the way that the breast cancer as a disease behaves is going to be individualized from patient to patient. But at some point, as you know, Anderson, back in 2004, the original diagnosis, she was very open about talking about that. In 2007, 3 years later, she had spread of this breast cancer to her bones and now most recently to her liver. At some point, they say, look, the medicines, we've gone from this ability to try and think about curing someone of the breast cancer to simply trying to treat it. And at this point, the treatments even, we think, could do more harm than good. So that's what they are really basically saying by unproductive. Best to focus on just keeping her comfortable and free of symptoms at this time.
Jessica, I should know the answer to this, and I apologize to viewers for not. I know they have a daughter who's in her 20s. They have sons. How old are the kids?
They have two younger children. I actually can't remember their ages right now, but I think they're the early teenage years and perhaps very, with many more years at home to go before they go to college. And of course, Anderson, she lost a teenage son, Wade, many years ago.
Right. And she obviously played a very strong role in the Edwards campaign. I mean, some often said she was a driving force behind it, maybe wanted it more than he did in some points. And there was that moment now famous when basically during the campaign that she announced that the illness had returned. I just want to play that for our viewers.
Yeah.
The net result of all the tests is that her cancer is back. It's largely confined in bone.
What sort of an impact has she had on her husband's career?
Well, he was the candidate, but oftentimes it seemed that she was the star. I covered them through so many events, and she was always the popular public figure, and her struggle with cancer was a central part of, in a way, both of their appeal. You remember, she was admired for her strength after losing her son, Wade. Then when she got the cancer, she first noticed a lump toward the end of the 2004 campaign as her husband was still running for vice president. And because she didn't want to upset anyone, she kept it quiet until the campaign ended. That won her a lot of affection. And so did her grace in fighting it. She first seemed to beat the cancer, but as you'll recall, when it recurred in 2007, right as her husband was launching his presidential campaign, she was the one who insisted he stay in the race. And her struggle with the disease and their bond together became a central part of his 2008 campaign. I attended more Edwards campaign events than I can remember, and every single time he talked about her and her fight with this disease, Anderson.
Yeah, I should point out the four children, as you said, Wade, who passed away, Catherine, and Emma Claire and Jack are 10 and 12, I'm told. When, Sanjay, at this point, I mean, what does a patient do?
Well, there's been a lot of studies on this exact question, Anderson, and you have varying schools of thought. But one thing that she has talked about is she's going to be at home. She's going to be at home with her family as opposed to being in a hospital, for example. And studies have shown that in terms of the overall anxiety levels for the patient and the family, and even quality of care can all be better, in fact, at home as opposed to in a hospital, as long as the care is available at home. So she says she's going to be at home. I mean, a lot of it's going to be focused on what is known as palliative care, and not to sound too clinical, but basically, the concerns about pain, the concerns about nausea or vomiting, the concerns about what will happen to her heart and lungs, all of that can be addressed so that she can be comfortable and be able to be interactive with her family. But that's really going to be the focus from what I heard from her statement, and also looking at studies of patients in this condition. It's focused on treating these types of symptoms.
Yeah, I mean, to think about her kids, 10 and 12, I lost my dad at age 10. I mean, it's a devastating impact on a child, particularly at that age. Jessica, the relation, I mean, I think some people would be surprised to hear that John Edwards is by her side. They're obviously estranged. Do we know much about their relationship today?
Well, look, they're separated and not divorced, and that is meaningful. Anderson, the facts still are pretty painful. In the last 3 years, she learned that she had a terminal illness, that her husband had a relationship with another woman, that he'd lied to her about it, and that he was the father of this other woman's child. And remember, much of that soap opera was unfolding during the campaign while she was keeping up this brave public face. So plenty has been written and said about the private tension behind the scenes. Truthfully, as devastating as all of that must be, we should remember they still live in the same area, and part of the reason that he's been by her side as things took a turn for the worse is we're told she generally thinks it's important that he has a strong relationship with his children. She knows she's not going to be around for long, and she does not want to come between her children and their father.